Yeah, because I've got, in my home, I've got one about to be a junior in college and one about to be a seventh grader. So I'm catching it. So it's and working in higher education administration, I am, I'm in that sandwich. So I've got a child, and I'm a concerned parent.
Yes.
On the one hand, but I'm also, working at an institution which is of higher education, but there is still an aspect of business to it where you have to, you can't educate if you're not open. But
Correct.
You can't open if it's not safe, and you don't have so it's just this cyclic thing that just kind of keeps moving. I've got to say though, the daughter that's in college, she's an RA. She's a resident assistant. So came a little earlier, and thank goodness she gets her own room. But still the minute, there's some anxiety around the home. But the minute that she set her foot on campus, she was like, I feel like I can breathe better. I feel, she was back to her independence on the one hand, but at the same time, you got to let them go on that end, but you worry, you worry like, don't be stupid. The parenting comes in.
Exactly.
But at the same time, the same amount of anxiety is at the seventh grader. With the seventh grader, she's also anxious, but they're starting school in the middle of August here in North Carolina in Guilford County.
Okay.
She is, but they're starting online, so they're starting remotely as well. But there are a whole lot of things, other considerations, things that I never thought about in terms of people, where they come from. A lot of our kids in some of the colleges come from rural counties out here, and for them, they're like, I will stay on campus. I will rather fight that virus than go back to where I came from. They're like, you know what? Never mind. But the other side of that too is, one is the independence, but the other side, what people, and I think some of the deciderers, as they say, as we all know, as we're in it, because we are dealing with the students, is that there is there are other things to consider that I think some of the people aren't considering. For instance, if there is someone who does, and God forbid, but likely contracts the disease, the virus, they can't go back home because their siblings back home, so they can't bring that back. So they've got to stay where they are, and you can't abandon folks. So it's going to be interesting. But you hope against hope, but there's just so much to consider, and we're all just kind of, on the one hand, you want things to get back to something that halfway resembles normal.
Yes.
But how do you do it? How do you do it safely? And how do you, not stifle the growth and academic, continuation for these students, what they're looking for. So it's different. God bless you all, and because I've got I said this before, Chief. I was talking about the way that the public school systems were able to stop on a dime and just start learning, like you said, you have 2 weeks and 3 days. You're not complaining or nothing. It is what it is. And you said, we got to do what we've got to do. Yep. But and you all were able to kind of do that, and I was marveling at how, you all were able, who heretofore had not done any kind of online stuff with your students, but they were able to stop and make things happen and figure it out. And I had college professors, who were like, Blackboard. What is that? I really got to use that now. I've not used that before. How do I do it? So, as they say, Time Magazine has the people of the person of the year. The person of the year for 2020 ought to be public school teachers. Period. Hands down. You got to applaud, Mike. You got to applaud the folks.
And it's funny because, like I expressed to my staff today, the term lifelong learners, because you do have the older teachers, the older staff members. Let me rephrase it. the seasoned staffers,
wise.
That's right.
that look at they look at it and, whoa, what is this? And well, you have to learn this. And one thing that you stated is the students that you have in the rural communities. My question is, do they even have access to internet out there?
Right. And that was the issue. We had one on the one hand, you think you're doing something. We got your laptop. Like,
Yep.
Now I got to get your hotspot. And then to talk about the business of that, everything is on back order. And anything is overseas that you're ordering from another country. Now you've got supply chain issues all over the place.
Correct.
So, I mean, on the one hand, we were able to give our students for the first time, thanks to a donor, anonymous donor, laptops for the entire incoming freshman class.
Outstanding.
But they got to, rural communities, they got to get hotspots now, and everybody wants a hotspot. So it's always something, but as you said, you do it for the love of teaching, for the love of these students, and for the fact that, you are putting your imprint on the world changers for tomorrow. And hopefully one of them is going to figure out something that we never had to go through this crap again.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Dr. Marintek,
yes.
What type of concerns have you been hearing from parents?
I'm not hearing any concerns from our parents, but I think the concerns that we are noticing, unfortunately, because students are home more, and this is countrywide, where there's an increase in spousal abuse and child abuse. So, we have a great team, social and emotional team at our school, just to check in. How are you doing? Do you need some groceries? What do you need? And that's kind of the shift from what you normally hear from a school. But, we try to give that support to our students and our families. And unfortunately, we have a couple of kids that, they had some extra time on their hands and they are now incarcerated. And we were very concerned about that when we closed. Again, our team is very good. I'm so proud of our support team, but, I think I haven't heard, that much about parent concern, but our concern is to make sure that we have, that the families are okay, that they have whatever they need. And if they need something, we can, get them some groceries or kind of guide them of where they need to go. A lot of families were evicted. I mean, that's countrywide, because, they don't have jobs. They couldn't go to work, so they couldn't pay their rent or mortgage. So, we helped out in that as well. So that was our concern. Not really, we don't really have any family concerns from our students.
And that was an interesting point you made in terms of you had some young people that were arrested and because of involvement in things, and you're saying that there's a possible correlation between that and not being in school. Is that something that you're hearing system-wide or from your colleagues across the country? Is that something common?
Well, I know that I heard on the national news, I think a couple of days ago, that it's hard for CPS type of workers to make family visits to make sure that children are okay. I'm not saying because we didn't have school that they committed the crimes, but what I'm saying that the interventions that are in place to talk to students, to have them busy in outstanding learning activities, that kind of stifles some things, because we did have the Chromebook distribution at our school, and I passed out 30 Chromebooks. But again, when students come to school, there's a break for both the student and the parent, where the student has the opportunity to learn in a safe and clean learning environment, where, there might be some tensions at home. So, and we can build that bridge from the student to the parent. And again, I'm going to applaud our social and emotional team. Before COVID, they've made visits to the homes during the evenings, during the weekends, to ensure that the families are okay, that the parent has enough support to make sure that their children are successful. So I'm going to say there's a correlation because again, we're here to provide intervention as well. And some kids had a lot of time. They had a lot of time on their hand, and if you have nothing productive to do, I mean, we were all young, and we can honestly say for myself that, hey, if it wasn't for band on Friday nights and going on band trips and going to universities in Illinois, and I could have been doing something else that was not productive. So I think school has a big part of the youth development of children, and because of the closure, I think they were into some things that they weren't supposed to be.
When you think about some of the concerns that teachers have around this whole COVID piece, are you finding that there are differences in the concerns of teachers versus those of administrators, or are they pretty much running along a parallel path?
I think it's a parallel path because I believe that, my personal experience, because I have a bachelor's and a master's in music, and those are performance-based classes. I have to go in, I have to be in the band. Okay. So my second master's is in educational leadership, and then my doctorate is in curriculum instruction. So with that being said, there was more with the music. There's a lot of one-on-one. There's a lot of peer tutoring. There's a lot of, instruction from the band directors, from my private lesson teachers and things like that. But more when you get into the academic side, there was more, I call it the Ben Stein, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that movie when the guys like Bueller. Right. You cannot teach like that in the online environment. So some teachers, to answer your question, and also some administrators, lifelong learners, as I have always said this, when we started, they kind of have to reflect on their instructional delivery, because there is more, because of the NRS by the state of Nevada, there are more rules regarding distance learning in the minutes that teachers are supposed to instruct students. So those Ben Steins of the world, those teachers, they have to be honest with themselves, be open to all the new training, and understand that this is a new day and age where that we're doing a lot more, as in giving instructional delivery to students, and we might see some more blended type of things going on, where we have some students that might have to work and cannot be in the classroom during the school day. So this is kind of a blueprint of what we might see in a couple of years as standard practice. So I can say that the teachers that believe in always learning, they're taking the bull by its horns, and they're running with it. So, but the teachers that are set in their ways, they have to understand that they need to do something different. Well, they have to. There's no choice. And the administrators, we all understand that you have to be. Our observations look different. We don't go in the classroom. The classroom is the Canvas classroom, and that's how we make the observations instead of going into the brick and mortar schools. So it's a lot of newness for everybody, and those of us that are excited, we're going to move forward. But those those are reluctant. Hey, you don't have a choice on this. You know, you have